Welcome to this explainer. For nearly 2 decades now, the Jin Zhou case has pretty much been written off by the public, and even by historians, as just this catastrophic tragedy, like a terrible, unavoidable misfortune of war and politics, right? But when we brush away 17 years of dust and actually start piecing together the hidden evidence, a seriously chilling story emerges from the shadows. Guys, we aren't looking at a tragedy here. We're looking at a calculated, cold-blooded murder, a sprawling web of deceit orchestrated right from the very beginning by the emperor himself.
So it brings us to this massive question. Was the devastating fall of Jin Zhou just bad luck on the battlefield? Or was it a carefully orchestrated slaughter disguised as warfare? This is a question that literally forces us to completely rewrite history. As we go through this, I want you to look at the evidence today not just as dry historical facts, but honestly like a dark thriller. The emperor didn't just sit back and let these events unfold. No, he meticulously spun this deadly web, manipulating the lives of his absolute most loyal subjects, just to eliminate the brilliant General Wei Yan, and get this, his own crown prince. Let's uncover exactly how this nightmare was built, piece by agonizing piece.
Section 1. The paranoia begins. So to understand a massive, sprawling conspiracy like this, you really have to find the spark. And the root cause of this entire 17-year nightmare actually stemmed from what should have been just a passing whisper. Wei Yan, in a highly private moment, casually suggested to the crown prince that he might want to advise the emperor to abdicate. It was just a thought, just a piece of strategic advice. But in the halls of absolute power, whispers are basically deadly weapons. Grand Tutor Li happened to overhear this quiet conversation and immediately reported it straight to the emperor. In that single, fleeting moment, this seed of deep, resentful paranoia was planted in the emperor's mind. And the crazy thing is, the emperor stopped waiting for a real, tangible threat to show up. He looked at his loyal general, he looked at his own blood, and he decided to strike first. Okay, let's dive into this timeline and just watch how insanely fast the emperor's paranoia escalates into devastating action. Following that fateful abdication remark, the emperor laid his first real trap at the mid-autumn banquet. And the plan was super insidious. He basically intended to catch Wei Yan in a scandalous, illicit affair with consort Shu, right in the middle of the festivities. This would give him the perfect, undeniable excuse to execute the general. But the trap completely failed. There was no affair, there was absolutely no evidence to make the accusation stick, but rather than back down and just accept the truth, the emperor's desperation only got darker. If he couldn't find the evidence to destroy his enemies, well, he decided he would just invent it.
Section 2. The Phantom Pregnancy Trap.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the stark contrast between the emperor's brazen lies and the hidden truth that was literally buried for years. When reality didn't suit his paranoid narrative, the emperor just manufactured a new one. On the left side here, the emperor fabricated a rumor that consort Shu was pregnant. But there was a massive, glaring flaw in his whole story. His own official visitation records didn't match the timeline of the supposed conception at all. Instead of retreating from the lie, though, he twisted this very discrepancy into, quote-unquote, proof that the unborn child had to be Wei Yan's. Consort Shu became the primary victim of this total fabrication, enduring just relentless interrogations and crushing psychological torture. But look over on the right. An imperial physician actually held a verified, secret letter confirming unequivocally that she was never pregnant in the first place. The entire accusation, the whole justification for all the terror that followed, was a complete phantom.
Section 3. Fire at Qing Yuan Palace.
By now, the situation was just spiraling entirely out of control. The truth about the fake pregnancy was becoming a massive liability, and the emperor needed to tie up these loose ends permanently. So what does he do? He turns to absolute chaotic violence. The fire at Qin Yuan Palace was no tragic accident. The emperor actually ordered his own men to pour oil onto the flames, making sure the fire would burn fiercely enough to guarantee the destruction of all evidence, especially that damning physician's letter. But guys, here is the most heartbreaking twist of this entire thriller. The emperor forged a letter in consort Shu's name just to lure Wei Yan back to the capital and directly into the inferno. When Wei Yan arrived and rushed into the burning palace to save her, consort Shu made a devastating choice. She knew a rescue would give the emperor the final visual proof of their treasonous bond. So, to protect him, to completely deny the emperor his twisted narrative, she chose to remain in the flames, burning alive as a deliberate sacrifice.
Section 4. The Fall of Jin Zhou.
let's move to and see how this builds. Because while the palace burned and consumed Consort Shu, the real devastation was unfolding far away on the battlefield. The emperor's manipulations weren't just a bitter domestic dispute anymore, they triggered a catastrophic military collapse. First off, that forged letter successfully lured Wei Yan away from his crucial, desperately needed mission to reinforce the city of Jinzhou. Knowing that Wei Yan, upon realizing it was all a trap, would desperately send for backup, the emperor issued secret, treasonous orders forbidding Lord Shengjin from deploying any troops. He actively and maliciously blockaded his own army. Cut off from all supplies, with reinforcements intentionally halted, the rescue mission was just doomed from the start. The emperor literally let Jinzhou fall, intentionally sacrificing thousands of lives and his own son just to complete the trap. Let that sink in.
Just look at the horrific toll of this weaponized paranoia. Consort Shu, burned alive in a suffocating palace trap. Crown Prince Chang'ai and Callan Shan, completely abandoned on a brutal battlefield, slaughtered in a fight they never ever stood a chance of winning. They became the ultimate collateral damage of a father's ruthless ambition and fear. And finally, Wei Qi, a totally innocent man whose life would be utterly ruined in the dark aftermath of this massive military disaster. The sheer scale of the betrayal here is just staggering.
Section 5. Aftermath and the scapegoat. So, with the crown prince dead and Jin Zhou utterly lost to the enemy, the surviving players were really backed into a desperate corner. Wei Yan, having lost everything he held dear in the fires and on the battlefield, was pretty much forced to launch a desperate palace coup, eventually compelling the emperor to abdicate his throne. But to stabilize a totally fractured realm, Wei Yan needed someone to take the fall for the unprecedented military disaster at Jinzhou. So he shifted all the public blame onto Wei Qi, officially branding him a traitor. But let's be absolutely clear here. Wei Qi's innocence is undeniable. Wei Yan had originally given him a military token to desperately get those reinforcements from Lord Changyin, but because of the emperor's secret blockade, no troops were ever coming. Wei Qi didn't betray anyone. He couldn't even act. He was simply turned into a super convenient scapegoat to absorb all the sins of the emperor's sabotage. So, the crucial point is this. The Jin Zhou case was never just a series of tragic coincidences or unfortunate military blunders. It was a terrifying masterclass in calculated destruction. We're talking about deploying false accusations, silencing innocent witnesses with fire, actively sabotaging loyal armies, and ultimately shifting all the blame onto the guiltless. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer to unravel this 17-year-old truth. Seeing just how ruthless and blinding the pursuit of absolute power can really be, it leaves us with one seriously chilling question. When history is written by the survivors, how many other historical tragedies were actually carefully orchestrated martyrs?